BJ Mafia was popping. The red-hot Jaguars will be traveling up to Pittsburgh to take on the Steelers in a Week 8 matchup. The Jaguars come into this game as winners of 4 consecutive. They're sitting with a record of 5-2, and the Pittsburgh Steelers, after getting shellacked by the Houston Texans, just like the Jaguars did, they've now won 2 straight games versus Baltimore and at the LA Rams. They sit with a record of 4-2, and I am so excited for this Week 8 matchup because not only do both of these franchises have some level of familiarity with one another, both of these fan bases despise each other, right? Now, obviously, I respect the history of the Pittsburgh Steelers, but we're talking present day and we're talking recent memory. In recent memory, I believe the Jaguars are the only team in NFL history to have won in Pittsburgh twice in the same season. They did it 2 times, both in 2007, both in 2017. And the Jaguars are looking to continue their revenge and to continue their dominance and assert that in the AFC this upcoming weekend. And before I really get into this preview matchup, if you guys please could go ahead, drop me a thumbs up. It takes 1 second and it helps me and the channel out tremendously. Make sure you guys also hit that subscribe bell to stay tuned for more Jaguars content that I do here on YouTube. And make sure you guys also go ahead and follow me on my socials, especially on Twitter. I'm very active and I'm on there every single day. The link tree will be in the description down below. But let's actually go ahead and get into this preview matchup. I'm going to go ahead and talk injuries first before I start talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, the Steelers, their injury report looks pretty clean. The only notable player that did not participate in practice, and I'm recording this on a Wednesday, is with cornerback Patrick Peterson. He had an NRI, a non-injury related or NIR, non-injury related illness or absence excuse from the team, so I'm not too worried about him. For the Jaguars, they're a lot more banged up. The Jaguars, Zay Jones, Walker Little, and Tyson Campbell, including Devon Hamilton, did not play in that Thursday night matchup at the New Orleans Saints. They are all listed as questionable for this game, and you also had safety Andre Sisco, who actually left the game with cramps. Now, from my personal expectation is all of these guys are going to play. I expect Walker Little to come back. I expect Zay Jones, Tyson Campbell to come back, and I expect Andre Sisco to be out there Sunday afternoon. But as the week continues to progress, we'll continue to monitor those things. This is just my personal belief on it. Now let's actually talk Pittsburgh's offense going into this game versus the Jaguars defense. This is going to be a great matchup. And when you look at Pittsburgh's offense, they've been extremely underwhelming, at least to my standard. I'll only speak for myself. When I went into the season with a lot of expectations for Kenny Pickett. Now look, some of this has to do with Kenny Pickett, but a lot of it has to do with a terrible offensive coordinator in Matt Canada who cannot schematically get this offense going. The run game is non-existent. Kenny Pickett doesn't look like he's really progressed. And this offense is just extremely stagnant. Take a look at Pittsburgh's offensive ranks so far throughout the season, through the first 7 weeks. They rank 26th in points per game, 25th in passing yards per game, 28th in rushing yards per game. They are 31st in pass blocking grade per PFF, and they are 19th in run blocking grade per PFF. They're not doing a great job. Matt Canada has not had this offense as a well-oiled machine into where it needs to be since taking over this team in 2021. You've got a great offensive young core nucleus with Najee Harris, who has not lived up to expectations. Kenny Pickett, who is still trying to figure things out. You've got a great outside receiver in George Pickens, Deontay Johnson. You've got Allen Robinson, and you've got Calvin Austin there too, an absolute burner down the middle of the field. And Pat Freiermuth, offensively speaking. You've got weapons, including Darnell Washington as well too from Georgia. This Pittsburgh Steelers offense has weapons. They have the pieces, and Matt Canada has not lived up to his expectations as the offensive coordinator. I don't know if he's blackmailing Mike Tomlin, but something's going on in that organization, and they have not been well. Now, speaking about their quarterback, Kenny Pickett, I had high expectations for him coming into this season, and he's been underwhelming. He's just been a game manager, nothing more, nothing less, but I expected him to be better. Throughout the first parts of the season, Kenny Pickett is thrown for 1,257 yards, 5 touchdowns to 4 interceptions, and only has a 35.3 quarterback rating scale of 0 to 100. Not a great job whatsoever. Kenny Pickett needs to do a better job. The offensive line needs to do a better job of pass protecting, run blocking. Najee Harris doesn't look explosive out of the backfield. There's just so many things wrong with this offense, and it needs to do better. Now, when you talk about this offensive matchup versus the Jaguars defense has been the backbone of this team so far through the first 7-8 weeks of the season. When you take a look at it, the Jaguars are number 1 in the NFL in total takeaways. They lead the NFL with 16 takeaways. I believe that they are tied for second in the NFL in turnover differential +6, the most telling stat in all of football. How many times can you take the ball away from your opponent, and how well do you do of a job of protecting the ball? The Jaguars do that both at an exceptionally high level. Both Andre Sisco and Darius Williams, they are both tied for second in the NFL with 3 interceptions, and Darius Williams is number 1 in the NFL in passes deflected with 11. In terms of PFF, Darius Williams is number 1 in the NFL with at least 250 plus pass coverage snaps with an 85.6 grade per PFF. He has been outstanding, to say none the least. So far this season, he's been the Jaguars' best secondary player on the outside alongside Tyson Campbell, and I did not expect that. In terms of the front 7, Jaguars' Josh Allen has been wreaking havoc all season. He's tied for 3rd in the NFL with 7 sacks, tied for 3rd with 33 quarterback pressures, and he's 2nd in the NFL with 10 quarterback hits. Josh Allen in a contract year has been balling out. He's been a huge catalyst to why the Jaguars defense as a whole has been so superb, and he's really helped alleviate a lot of that pressure, especially in the secondary. Now, the last thing I want to say about Pittsburgh's offense versus Jacksonville's defense is going to be stopping George Pickens on the outside. In the 2 losses that the Steelers have versus the 49ers and versus the Houston Texans, George Pickens did not have a good game, and the Steelers got absolutely ran off the field. George Pickens had 36 yards in one of those games and 25 in the other. Not very good. In the 4 wins that they have, George Pickens has played phenomenal. He's coming off 2 back-to-back great games. Versus the Rams, he had 5 catches for 107 yards. Versus the Ravens, he had 6 catches for 130 yards and 1 touchdown. In the games that he has 75 plus yards this season, Pittsburgh wins. When they get the air game going, and they do get it going at times because Kenny Pickett does have an arm down the field. I've seen it to George Pickens. I've seen it to Deontay Johnson. I've seen it with Calvin Austin. Kenny Pickett has the talent, and he has the arm. You have to stop George Pickens in this offense because I'm not concerned about Najee Harris and that offensive line, especially when you look at how great the Jaguars' run defense is. Now, flipping over to the Jaguars offense versus Pittsburgh Steelers defense, this is where this matchup in this game is going to be decided in the trenches. How well is the Jaguars offensive line going to go up against that nasty front 7 led by Alex Highsmith and TJ Watt, and you've got Minkah Fitzpatrick in the secondary. The Jaguars offensive line last weekend versus the New Orleans Saints was superb. Versus the Saints, they allowed an 8.6 pressure rate, the lowest recorded pressure rate allowed versus any defense in the entire NFL this season. They're going to have a huge test, and so will Anton Harrison this weekend versus TJ Watt, arguably the best pass rusher in the game of football. Alex Highsmith is nothing to sneeze at, and this entire Steelers front 7. They run a lot of cover 2 man concepts. That's going to open up a lot of mismatches for Christian Kirk in the slot. That means Trevor Lawrence is going to have a lot more ability to run the ball, especially with a lot of backs turned, and that's going to open up a lot of things in the intermediate passing game, especially with a lot of crossing routes, getting these guys in a lot of mesh concepts. The Jaguars are going to have to take advantage of that Pittsburgh defense when they're in man coverage because you've got guys on the outside that can go ahead and actually take advantage of that. And when you look at Pittsburgh's secondary, the Jaguars are going to have to do a great job yet again, and Trevor Lawrence does do a great job of this, of getting the ball out timely and quickly. About 2.3 seconds to throw the ball from the time it's snapped to the time it's out of Trevor Lawrence's hands. Protect your young quarterback and get that ball out quickly, especially when you've got TJ Watt coming over on the edge. With the Steelers secondary, like I said, led by Minkah Fitzpatrick, you've got Keanu Neal, Patrick Peterson, yes, he's aged, but he's a seasoned vet, Joey Porter Jr., Levi Wallace, etc. This is a very good Pittsburgh Steelers defense that still has a lot of talent. The Jaguars are going to have to look to exploit that, and I expect a huge game from Christian Kirk in the slot over the middle. I don't think a Levi Wallace or a Joey Porter Jr. is going to be able to keep up with him. This is just speculation as of right now, but I think that's where you're going to have to identify the mismatch with that Pittsburgh Steelers defense. And the last thing is for the Jaguars offense is you're going to have to continue to pound the ball, continue to pound the rock, and to feed Travis Etienne. He's been sensational through these last 3 weeks of the season. He's had 58 carries, 244 yards, and 6 touchdowns in the last 3 games. Travis Etienne has been superb. And Travis Etienne is also tied for first in the NFL forcing the most missed tackles this season so far with 32 of them. Now, kind of getting into my final verdict with this game, I do think that this is going to be a very good and physical game. Both of these teams play with a lot of physicality. Both of these franchises know each other extremely well, and I think both of these fan bases desperately want this win for bragging rights over one another. The Jaguars come into this game as 2.5-point favorites over the Steelers. I like Jacksonville to cover this game, and I like the Jaguars to go on the road in Pittsburgh and win this game 30-20 in Week 8. The Jaguars will improve to 6-2 on the season, and the Pittsburgh Steelers will drop to 4-3 on the season. But Jaguar fans and Steeler fans, I want to hear your guys' thoughts in the comments down below. Make sure you guys give me a bold take and also give me a score prediction in the comments down below. And like I said, if you guys enjoyed today's video, make sure you guys go ahead and drop me a thumbs up. It takes 1 second and it helps me in the channel out tremendously. Like I said, if you guys are new here, consider hitting that subscribe bell to stay tuned for more Jaguars content that I do here on YouTube. And make sure you guys also go ahead and follow me on my socials, especially on Twitter. I'm very active and I'm on there every single day. The link tree will be in the description down below, so you guys can go ahead and check that out. But Jags fans, Steeler fans, thanks again for sticking around throughout the whole video. Brett James, aka BJ, I'm out, y'all. Go Jags, baby. Peace.